Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Today, we're going to have a great day. My name is Sangeeta Bhatnagar, and we are having a session today on mental health support systems and that different corporations have put into effect. And these are people who have hands-on, they're doing the work. And so they're going to share some real practical strategies, and we're going to make this worth of your time. So I'd like to just start with going around our virtual room. Just a quick mini intro about yourself and your role. So if I can start off with Sandy Young.
Thanks, Sangeeta. It's really great to be here. I've commented a few times, and I think at the conference recently, it's kind of like I'm still not sure what I want to do when I grow up, but I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now. And I've been in HR for 25 plus years. Right now, I think it's approaching 30 years, and it's a wonderful arena to be in, and it's changed so much, especially in the last 10 years. So I'm still learning and growing, and passionate about moving things forward with this type of dialogue. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. How about Kristen and then Pascal?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Dempsey. I'm a senior training specialist at MCAP. I've been in learning and development for about 2.5 years, but I do have my bachelor's degree in social work. So mental health, wellness, and supporting others is something that's always really been a passion of mine. So being here to talk about, what we do in our workplaces today is really exciting. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. And Pascal.
Thanks. That was great, Kristen. And you too, Sandy. My name is Pascal. I'm the CEO and founder of the Benefit Code. We provide employee benefits and offerings to companies of all sizes across Canada. My passion became clear about 10 years ago when I realized that employees were often underutilizing some of the programs that were offered because mental health was becoming more and more of an issue within an organization at all levels. So it's become my personal mandate or corporate mandate to make sure that programs are communicated in an effective way so that we can actually help the end user, the client, which is the employee. Because if the employee is not, functioning in their home life, in their work life, it has such a big effect on all of us, especially that individual and their families.
Wonderful.
So, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. Thanks to each of you for giving your time. So I just want to put this question out there to each of you. And I want, just so that we can frame the conversation, what role did you play in supporting mental health and wellness programs in your respective workplaces? So maybe, Kristen, can we start off with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I did was kind of spearhead the Grassroots Wellness Ambassadors program, which is a team member-led committee, small but mighty, about 7 of us, who get together regularly to really come up with different initiatives to support overall wellness, and mental health being one of those. So by doing things like on our teams virtually, we do things in the office. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of what I do. I don't know if you want me to get into more, or maybe we'll wait, but yeah.
No, that's good. So you just kind of grabbed it and chose to, hey, let me create something with the team.
I'm very passionate about like a team member to team member approach. That's something that I really firmly believe in. So it was something that I was passionate about and decided to take the leap and really just kind of try, and it was successful, and we're still going a couple years later. So yeah, it was just something that I had passion for and wanted to do, and went for it.
What's wonderful about that is you took the initiative, and then you have the leadership supporting the initiative, which is fantastic.
Yeah, the leadership team that supports is so incredible and fantastic.
Incredible.
We could not do it without them. So huge shout out to our leadership team who supports us.
I have a bias towards them, but yeah.
I guess I maybe do too.
All right. So how about you, Pascal? If you can share also, because I hear great things about you from Sandy. So
thank you, Sangeeta. So, I mean, we do a lot of things, but I think probably the most impactful, snippet that we do, and it's not a difficult thing to do, is we build communications that are short and sweet, that just keep dripping on, employees and employers on having the conversation and how to access resources when they're actually in the throes of whatever they're going through at the time. Having those long, emails with too much information that come at time of hire, they're really not fitting the bill.
Yeah.
So really advocating for short and sweet pieces. And also putting data.
Can I
Sorry,
just
go ahead.
interject there? Is that your key role? Is to really
So,
make effective communication?
I mean, it's not our key role, but I would say that our key role is, managing and building benefits and well-being programs for employers to roll out to their employees. But one of the key pieces, and it's so simple, is building those effective communication pieces, because at the end of the day, that's how employees learn about the programs. I think us taking data and knowledge and actually, regurgitating that into actionable programs for mental health has been key as well. We can really dig into what's happening within an organization, and then we can roll out programs or even tools like DNA, kits to figure out what medications work, or don't work to help, look at mental health from a bigger perspective. Like just being able to offer that holistic approach to employees and employers has been really key to our success and the success of the mental health programs that we roll out.
Amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
That's fantastic. Thank you. That's such a service. Thank you. And Sandy, you're such a passionate speaker on mental health, which is why you're back again. You knocked it out of the park at the big conference. So thank you for coming back and sharing.
Well, it's a real pleasure. And I connect so well with what Kristen and Pascal have just said. And going back to what Kristen said, and it's, the employees have taken an ownership to it, and they have the support of the leadership team. And that is so critical, because in any of the programs that I've been involved in, where you have the employees buy-in, where whether it's a task force or a small committee, that has such a significant impact, because it's not just the leadership pushing things down, it is actually being supported by the leadership. So that is fantastic. The key thing with any organization, the key message that needs to be out there is that if you don't have a strategic plan around mental health and mental wellness or wellness programs, you're not doing yourself or your business any favors. You need to have a strategic plan. From a financial component, you're looking at presenteeism, absenteeism, cutting down on your leaves, your long-term, short-term. You want to have greater productivity, engagement. So these are all the reasons that you need to have that strategic plan in there. The basic part of it is, for any company, they need to have engagement with their employees. So if you have an engaged workforce, your numbers will follow. So capturing the hearts and minds of those individuals and developing that nurturing part of it is so essential. We also can talk about, the legalities around it. We have an obligation for health and safety. So there's that component as well. And then to tap into what Pascal was saying, it is that constant, continual message. And that's where that value add that Pascal and her team that we've partnered with, it creates a common language, and employees really look forward to it. It has a light component to it, but they are significant messages. And that has been embedded into our communication, and people expect it. So, if we're a little late, from our end, getting a piece of communication, hey, where's our weekly communication? We look forward to those. So it's part of our brand as well, and really getting that in. So having the employees, the buy-in, and then having that consistent messaging, I think it really has a significant impact on health and wellness in the workplace.
That you kind of answered my next question. Like, what is the impact of your role and your involvement? So you were clear that increased engagement.
Oh yeah.
What other significant impact have you seen? And I'll
Well,
start with you, Sandy.
yeah, so from our perspective, having that engaged workforce, I mean, not only it supports, you know, the organization as a whole in terms of your productivity and your business results, but you also have a larger reach for your talent. So if you're involved in hiring people, or that talent acquisition component of it and the retention, they all flow into each other. And again, that comes back to, it has to be part of your corporate strategy. It's
Yeah.
just not going to happen. You have to have the programs and the systems in place to make sure that you're doing something methodically to achieve the right outcome. So doing the right thing at the right time for the right outcome. And if companies have not taken that into consideration, you need to do it now.
Yeah. So to follow through on the impact, Pascal, I'm going to jump to you because I know you're partnering. So if you could share some of the impact of the role that you play.
Yeah, I mean, from a company perspective, when we're able to, you know, post an ROI in terms of investment versus, you know, reduce claims, reduce absenteeism, increase presenteeism, that's great. But the role that we really play in terms of the employee is being connected to that culture. So, you know, when we're talking about inclusivity, diversity, belonging is a big part of that conversation now. And feeling like you belong within the culture that you work for and you work with and alongside, and putting that people first mentality. It's easy to say to an employee that you care about them, but if it's not embedded in your culture, they're not going to stick around, or if they do stick around, they're not going to be, you know, present and engaged. So, I mean, they all flow together, and it starts with the plan, like Sandy said, but it's not easy to roll it. Sorry, it's not difficult to roll out bite-sized pieces quickly. Like if you decide that you want to roll out a plan, obviously you need to spend some time with, you know, budgeting and what it looks like, but there are some, you know, small and easy bite-sized pieces that you can do immediately to start that, you know, a conversation.
Wonderful. And Kristen, I want to hear about that grassroots impact.
Yeah,
Share
and
with me, because
I
I hear
really think that they both, like both Sandy and Pascal, really kind of touched on the things that I was also going to mention. And, you know, engagement in person first is something that I'm also very passionate about it and really look for in the wellness ambassadors. And our goal is to be able to reach everybody, regardless of your role, capacity, anything going on. We try to reach everybody. You're in office, you're at home. So an example of something we do is, well, this week actually, we have a daily wellness trivia that we post on our Teams channel. And all that our team members have to do is answer A, B, C, or D using a reaction. So every day there's different reactions that they post to. And we get a lot of engagement that way because it's easy to engage with and they're reading. So they're getting something out of it in regard to their overall wellness and mental health. So engagement, number one. And then again, ensuring that everybody can participate. And again, person first is also so critical. And I think that's when the team member to team member approach really comes in handy because it brings it down to that level. And we do work with HR. We have an HR rep on our team. So we do also promote the EAP programs that we have and the other HR initiatives. But again, it's coming from a team member and not from that like up level down. It's coming right directly from us. And I think that's where we really see the impact.
Yeah, and I can see why you're an ambassador. You're a very passionate speaker. So love it. Amazing. Great conversation. So now I have a question specifically for you, Pascal, and feel free, ladies, to chime in if you want. So what advice would you give someone if they wanted to do one thing to improve the well-being of their people? Where should they start?
Okay, so I'll give you two quick things, but they sort of flow together. So number one, stop sending long, boring communications that are attachments. Like immediately stop. People aren't interested. Nobody's clicking that, you know, benefit booklet, like boring thing anymore. Just, you know, immediately stop and start creating very short snippets and, you know, have a cadence to it. So if you could do one thing that shows that you care, you know, quick communications, even if it's once a month, once a week, you know, every 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. Get a cadence and stop sending out boring communications. Number one.
Excellent. Number one. Good. Do you want to add one more point?
So I think that this resonates with what Kristen mentioned before, and whether you're an employee ambassador or you're the HR leader or whoever you are, don't be afraid to show employees that you care. I think there is a really big step back a couple of years ago with getting too personal with employees, even though like it was like the elephant in the room, right? Everybody knew that somebody was going through something and you didn't want to, ask for too much information. But I think that nothing shows caring more than being able to approach in, a respectful way and offer, even an ear or a resource or a referral. And I think that we need to bring that conversation back around.
That's so true what you just said, Pascal. In our last session in November, there were 3 speakers, all people who have gone through challenges, and that's what they said. Is
Okay.
they don't want people tippy-toeing around them or avoiding them. Show that you genuinely care and listen.
Yeah.
So you're bang on. Wonderful. Thank you. I did Kristen or Sandy? Yeah, go ahead, chime in.
Yeah, I think to that point, Pascal pointed out that, from an HR perspective, we often hear that you don't want to, breach that confidentiality or the privacy. And a lot of practitioners have really backed off, and they have somewhat of a fear to have candid conversations, and we absolutely need to get over that. I'm not suggesting that you breach any confidentiality or privacy, but you should not be afraid to communicate with the individual. And it's just approaching it in a genuine aspect of saying, getting to know them. It's just very basic. You don't have to touch on very specific things, but creating that alliance and that connection with individuals allows for the path of communication to be open. So we shouldn't be afraid of talking to our employees and creating that collaborative dialogue. So that it's a very important point.
I'll just jump in really quickly, Kristen. I hope I'm not cutting you off, but I think it's, even more important if one of your employees is off on leave, especially
Yes.
for a mental health leave. Sangeeta, to your point, in terms of, the experience, employees are saying that they feel, so disconnected when they come back. And it actually reduces the success rate of when employees do come back in. If you haven't touched them in some way, in some meaningful and caring way, inviting them to, workplace parties, making sure that you're still keeping that line of community. And it's not, hey, when you're coming back to work, it's like, hey, Jane, how are you doing? We miss you at work. Looking forward to if and when you can come back. Your spot's always here for you. And then whatever else that might be. But that really helps to increase the success rates of reintegration back into the workplace. And it's also kind, right? So we always want to do the kind thing.
I think that's where it needs to start, that kindness. Be a human being. Like we talk about being employee-centric and customer-centric. Let's just be human-centric and create meaningful human experiences. One of the speakers last time just talked about how her director kept checking in with her. She had, at that time, she had cancer and she was off, and her boss kept checking in, and just from the heart, not for any task. So that thing of make people feel that they matter, that's what helps in coming back. Kristen, I hope I didn't take up your time. You feel, chime in.
No, I was just going to kind of shift gears for just a moment, but talking about what you were saying is, as a role, as a senior training specialist, I do a lot of leadership trainings. And regardless of the training that I'm in or do, I always come back to rapport every single time. Again, regardless of the topic, I always talk about how important building that rapport is with your team.
That's my next question for you.
Oh, okay. What's the next question? And then I'll continue on.
So I have 2 questions for you, and I think they would flow together. So number one, because you are, you train leaders. Mm-hmm. So you're facilitating mental health workshops. How do you create a space, a safe space for this training and for the leaders to support them?
Yeah, so when we do that workshop, it's after they already kind of go through a third party workshop. They come back and we continue that conversation because it's so important to not just kind of stop. You need to continue to have that conversation. So ensuring that when we come back, it's all about role playing, and role playing can be difficult for some people. So ensuring that we have a safe space for our leaders to be able to have those conversations and be able to practice having those conversations is so important. And again, it goes back to that rapport. So something that I, suggest is that if they have like a OneNote on their teammates, or if they have like a notebook on there, just write down basic things and actively listen and show that you're actively listening. So using, summarizing what people are saying and paraphrasing what people are saying, things like that. And writing down their dog's name or their partner's name or where their cottage is, and going back and asking them about those things builds that foundation for that relationship. And if that foundation is cracked or not solid, you're not able to continue to build layers on top of it. And you're never going to be able to have those deep connective conversations with team members when they need it the most. So ensuring that you have a safe space for your leaders to practice having those conversations and making sure that they understand the importance of authentic relationships and building rapport can really help in those vulnerable times for our team members.
So if I can just follow up with a question. So you said create a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
So are some leaders more comfortable, like when you're training one-on-one and they're tense in front of their peers? How do you go about creating that safe space? I know you talked about rapport, but are there other strategies you?
I mean, I think it comes down to the facilitator specifically and how you build the room and how you build that dynamic or the group dynamic within the room. And I think it falls back on me building rapport with those people. I know I keep talking about rapport and I say it in my trainings. You're going to hate that word.
No.
It really comes down to ensuring that the leaders know that they can, come to me with questions and they can work together in small groups and it's a safe space for them. And saying those words, this is a safe space. This is the time to have those conversations and, have them not go well. This is that time to get that feedback and to have that moment so that when the time does come, you're confident in having those conversations. So ensuring that all of that is kind of said really helps those leaders who may not feel comfortable in a role play situation or in a group situation kind of be able to take a breath and realize, okay, this is going to help me in the future. So kind of creating it like that and making it known that it is a safe space. And again, saying those words, I think really does help that situation.
And do you find to create the safe space, do you use the small little snippets of communication in advance?
Yeah, so something that I've found to be successful is sending out role profiles if we do a role play. So sending them that information beforehand so they can review it allows them to come in and kind of understand what we're doing rather than just coming in and being like, surprise, we're going to do a role play about mental health conversations, which can be difficult. I prepare them as best I can beforehand so that when they come, they're ready to have that conversation.
Yeah, good. Because I think that's, I've heard this as a common, how do I create that safe space? So thank you for, excellent. Anybody else want to chime in before I move on?
Well, I would just like to amplify what Kristen was saying about that foundation. That's the basics of everything. And I as Kristen says, certain keywords you keep hearing over and over with that rapport. If you build that relationship with your people, you have to know your people. And it again, it's being genuine and finding out, do they have a family? It's okay to ask if they have a family. It's okay to ask, are your kids in sports or do you have pets? Those are all the great dialogues. And how many times do I send out a happy birthday or, congratulations on your work anniversary or things like that. And I immediately get a note back saying, thank you. So when you do have that basic rapport, when you do, hear someone or when you see someone going silent or you sense a struggle, you can open up a conversation quite naturally. So again, it comes back to knowing your people. You have to know your people. That's the ground line for me on that one.
And it sounds like I'm hearing that same thing, like you're doing those deposits in the emotional bank account. And I don't know who said that quote, that I don't care what you know until I know that you care. So you're making people feel like they matter, which you genuinely do, before they actually may need your support.
100%.
You're building
People
that
first.
trust and
Yep.
like what you both said, that safe space.
Yeah, and it's not just HR or your learning leader or things like that. That's a manager. Manager has to be doing that, and it starts from the very top of the organization and goes down. So, you know, to Kristen's credit, you know, she's developing those conversations and educating the people who are going to have the biggest impact. Absolutely.
And just to add to what you're saying, yes, it starts, you know, we need senior leaders like yourself to be passionate about it and then support people all the way through, so that someone, Kristen, who's not in HR, can take an initiative and make it blossom.
Yeah.
Because leadership is not the title, it's the influence, right? And so who really cares who's where? But because of corporate structure, we do have to go with traditional titles for that support. So it's great when someone with Sandy's title also has that heart to influence. That's the best way to be. Just like in, you know, at MCAP, like Penny and Victoria, they have that heart so they can make things move forward. So I love that. Love that. So now, oh, sorry, Pascal. And anyways, the next question's for you. So you go right ahead.
Okay. Well, you know, what's interesting, you know, Sandy has the title and she has the heart, but then she also executes. So, you know, there are lots of folks out there that have the title and the heart, but they're, you know, not too afraid, but they're not asking for help or they're too busy. I think what Sandy does well is she's not afraid to reach out and ask for help wherever it might be if she has a problem, so that she knows how to execute, you know, a program immediately to help her heart and her title, you know, kind of deliver.
And isn't that the perfect combination? Heart, strategy, tactical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So questions right for you, Pascal.
Okay.
So some companies might say, we already have resources in the company and they're not being utilized. So I'm not sure if we are hitting the mark. How do we figure out if they're right for our people?
Yeah, so you know, this kind of goes back to something Kristen said earlier in terms of, you know, that employee to employee interaction when somebody needs a resource. There are lots of embedded resources within every benefit plan in Canada that employees don't know about. And even if you're buying value add programs out there for mental health or, you know, other, if you don't tell your people about them in a meaningful way, you are not hitting the mark. So your question was, how do we know if we're hitting the mark? If you're not communicating often, either through your employee ambassadors, through, you know, posters on the wall, through weekly communications, you're definitely not hitting the mark. So my advice is to communicate with a cadence in a fun and uplifting way, and then have resources to send out when somebody is looking for something immediately.
Wonderful. Excellent. Anybody else want to chime in? Because it is a common thing where there's programs and nobody has clicked it to see what they have.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, to Pascal's point, you get a long tirade of these are all the things that you can do, and you can, you know, click here and click here, and it doesn't have that warm approach. So it's also going back to what Kristen said, and it's having the employee's voice being heard. So, you know, if there's a group of folks at an organization that are they want to have a walking program. Hey, we have a bunch of people here that really want a walking program. Well, listen to them and do something about it. You know, like, or if you've got a group of people who are absolutely a walking program just doesn't make any sense at all, but they want to have, you know, support for a nutrition program or a diet program or things like that. Listen to your people again, get to know your people, understand what they want.
You know,
And then you don't have to have a lot of money, but you look at what resources you can implement.
you know, something that Sandy mentioned, no matter what program that you're creating, you can make a QR code that links directly to the resource, and anybody can create a QR code. So for someone like, Kristen, for example, or anybody else, if you're communicating, walking program QR code, and then everyone can scan it and register for the program. Or maybe it's the mental health resource and you have a poster in your lunchroom that clicks directly to the EAP. So cut out that middle person and have that direct link so they're not clicking on a bunch of stuff, because that's when we're going to lose people.
Okay. Okay, lots of good stuff. So everyone attending live, and you know what, I'm so impressed. Everyone who registered, the bulk of people are here. Normally you get a 50% show rate, but I'm just so pleased. So this is being recorded, but if you have any questions, feel free to send them in, and we will have a takeaway sheet being sent out Friday or Monday that the ladies have put together, and Kristen packaged it up very nicely for us. So you'll also be getting those because they're sharing valuable nuggets. Okay, so I have a question for you, Sandy, and I think a lot of people are going to want to hear this one for sure. So you've developed programs, webinars, communications on mental wellness. Have you made changes in your own self-care, your mental health care?
Absolutely. This was a big change for me. So it was coming to the realization and acknowledging that me, myself, and I personally was in a very precarious mental health state. And for someone who puts out those programs and collaborates with different organizations to get that messaging out there, it was kind of like, something really isn't quite right. So I had to take care of myself, which was very new to me. I mean, I've always been very active and very physically active, and I all the right things that you say to everyone else, but now all of a sudden it's me. So it created a very, very different perspective for me. And now I had to take care of myself. So out of that, it created a further depth of understanding. So looking back on it, I'm very grateful that I experienced that, because it gives me a greater depth of understanding. So it made me more knowledgeable. I had to put into practice what I was preaching, and that is a different state altogether. I had to collaborate. I had to ask for help. That's a big thing. So as practitioners,
can you repeat that last line?
It's asking for help.
Ask for help. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no
It's
shame.
humbling. It's very, very humbling.
And there's no shame.
No, and that's part of the different perspective, because a lot of HR leaders, a lot of training people, we tell everyone about the programs, but when you actually have to use them yourself, that's when you really start to understand, and it creates that depth, and it's humbling. It allows you to really connect with individuals who are struggling on it could be a myriad of different areas. So some of the things that I would share with you that were very practical to me, and it was in 2020, was a mindful practice, because hey, there was this program that was out there, and it was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna check out this mindful practice because maybe this is gonna be good for my employees. Wow, this is really good for me. Wow, okay, so this is really neat. Meditation. And we've heard about meditation, I've heard about it for many, many years. And now all of a sudden it's just like, oh, hang on here. There's really something behind that. So as you develop your own practice, you have a better perspective, and you can collaborate more effectively with your leaders and with your individual contributors. So it's creating that physical awareness. It's creating the mental awareness. You have a greater self-compassion and compassion for others. And it's also looking at, how am I continually growing? So I thought I had, a really good headspace around, hey, I know what I can do for my employees. Well, hang on, what are you doing for yourself? Because if, you know, the old, you know, adage that, you know, you need to put the mask on yourself. You do, you really, really do. So that was a big takeaway for me. And I think it's added to how I can approach things and being able to share that people know that I do know, I do have maybe a little snippet of what you might be dealing with. So that's a quick overview from my perspective.
And it's very good, and I thank you for sharing so openly, because we have to fill our cup first
Yes.
before we can pour into others authentically, and not just give words and policies, but pour
100%.
into them. And if we're depleted, then we're not much good to others.
Right.
So
And that's why I say it really did. It was quite humbling, and it's just like, wow, okay. We all need to take a look in the mirror.
And when you go down that self-care mental health journey,
Mhm.
you actually become, even what you said, you become, because your insights are different, you become even more empathetic, and you really can see the perspective versus the theoretical side.
100%.
And I see that even because there's not too many senior HR leaders that come with your knowledge and perspective and heart, because a lot of it is theoretical and policy driven versus, like, to repeat what Pascal said, that you execute, but it stems from where your heart is.
And it comes with a lot of help and my networking, and I defer back to Pascal, who you know, my trusted advisor in all these wonderful things that we do. But it's also, you know, reaching out to, whether it's Pascal or Kristen or Sangeeta, and it's saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. What do you know? How can you help me? What is your experience? And being able to have those candid conversations. You know, in my, you know, growth, I had never heard of NLP. Wow, game changer for me. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about DNA and genetics, and wow, I can actually have a conversation about it now, and I know the questions to ask. So it's not only what you're doing for yourself, it's self-educating for the greater good as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So there's a question in the chat, and I imagine this will be for Kristen, from Ashley. So how can we initiate the establishment of a peer-to-peer employee well-being group or program? Thanks, Ashley, for your question.
Yeah, for sure. So I can kind of just go over how I kind of started the whole thing, and it came from, again, a passion of wanting to support my team members and seeing, you know, how I can support mental health in a way that is, again, peer to peer. So I did the research, I put together a PowerPoint, I brought it to my leader, who was like, this is fantastic, let's bring it to the rest of the leader team, the senior leader team, Penny, and present it to them, and we had their support. And then we made the call to anybody who would like to join. And really the one thing we were looking for is people who share similar passions. So my best suggestion would be to go to those people who really show that they want to support other people in this journey, in the mental health journey. And kind of going off of what Sandy said a little bit, and, you know, I went through my own personal journey, and I use those experiences to create some initiatives. So for example, we did like lunch and learn type things where we did journaling sessions as somebody who journals myself. And we did like a mindfulness, or like a mindful moment, where they came in and we talked about the benefits of mindfulness, and then we did a mindful moment together. So having people who are passionate about mental health and wellness is really going to kind of kickstart that peer-to-peer journey, and then just coming together and coming up with really great ideas. So really doing the research, presenting it, getting approval, and then just going for it, just taking that leap and going for it. And again, finding those like trailblazers, those people who show the passion. That's what's really going to get you to be successful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Was that good, Ashley? If you have any other questions, you can send it in, and I know Kristen will be happy to help. Ladies, did you want to chime in anywhere? Okay, you got the thumbs up from Ashley. Good. So I want to think about now, if you had to give some nuggets of information to our attendees who are live, and then we'll be listening later on YouTube and the recording, what would be one or two key takeaways for you to empower organizations to create those mental health support systems? What one or two key takeaways do you really want them to keep in their back pocket? So maybe we start off with you, Pascal.
Okay. So I think that if we remember that one size doesn't fit all in terms of programs, that something that's going to work for, you know, Kristen's organization or Sandy's organization may not work for yours. So know your data, and like Sandy always says, know your people. So, you know, data can be as easy, data can be as easy to get as off of your, you know, top DIN report from your, you know, benefit renewal. Like, what prescriptions are my folks taking? What programs are they using? And then act proactively in terms of rolling out a program. The program may not work, and failure is a good thing. So if you try a program, it doesn't work, then you know that's not going to work, and you file it away with learned lessons, and you try something else. Use your network to talk, you know, to other organizations that actually look like you in terms of size, diversity, location, because if a program's working for an organization that looks similar to you in a similar location with a similar employee makeup, chances are you're going to have a higher success rate than rolling out a program that worked for, you know, a big bank, you know, with 50,000 urban employees. Like that may not work for you if you're in Waterloo.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And how about you, Kristen? What one or two takeaways would you like our attendees to?
Coming from just, you know, an individual contributor standpoint, I would say just if you're passionate about it, go for it. You know, like Pascal said, you know, try again if it doesn't work. As a wellness ambassador, we've tried things that did not work, that they did not bite. We put those away and we tried something new, and we kept going. And that's the thing, is really just continuing to put it out there, you know, and eventually something's going to work. So just go for it. Just do it. You know, if you're thinking about it and you're like, oh, do you know what? This is something I think we need or we could do. Do it. Just do it. That would be my one nugget of advice, is just do it.
I love that. Just do it.
Yeah.
And you're showing me too. And you know, I like your messaging because you're talking about having a grit mindset, right?
Yeah.
Just keep trying it. Something's going to work. They're going to bite somewhere.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Thank you. And then we'll wrap up with you, Sandy, with your takeaway, one or two key points that you want our attendees to have.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised, and Pascal touched on it. Know your people.
Know your people.
101. That is know your people. I know I talked about it at the conference. And I actually had some very pointed words at the conference. It's like, shame on you if you don't know your people. That is part of your corporate responsibility. That's part of being a human. You have to know your fellow humans. Who are you interacting with every day? You need to know them. From a corporate standpoint, connecting with what Pascal was talking about, there's data. You have data. It may not be complex data that perhaps, you know, some of the bigger organizations, you know, global organizations have a ton of data, but you have data that you can tap into. So if from a corporate standpoint, are you looking at your data? Are you taking it seriously? The data is going to tell you the story. And if you need to create ROI, and if you need to create that dialogue to get some dollars behind programs or get, you know, some traction in there, go back and you know, ask your people, look at the data. What can you do with what you have in place now? Networking. I mentioned to this group earlier that, you know, I came out of the GTA and I came to Kitchener, and I'm just like, gosh, I don't know anybody here. Greatest thing that I had to do was network. And that's what I do. I connect people now. How can I help you? And how can I help my fellow HR people? Let's not recreate the wheel. Share what are you doing and what can I borrow? And, you know, I'm more than happy to push out, you know, things that we do as well. So again, it comes down to asking, know your people and asking your colleagues and, you know, people, you know, within the GTACC, like there's people out there and, you know, failing faster. So yeah, exactly. You know, you try a program and it didn't work. Well, you failed and now you're going to move on. So it's just a collaboration of all of these things, and you know, approaching things with curiosity is so important. And yeah, know your people. That's there you go. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, and I like a couple things that you just said, like failing fast. And if we understand that when you fail forward because you're trying things. So you're still failing forward. And another thing I just loved what you said is they're human to human.
Mhm.
Be kind to human beings. So instead of, you know, sometimes in the corporate world, someone's a number. And in many times through HR lens, it's a number. And you're about know your people. You've repeated that, like your people, human beings. And I remember Pascal earlier, you said, you know, you're checking in on your team, your people. It's just about being kind. I think if we just look at everything from a heart-centered, humor-centered approach, a lot of it is logical, right? If we're kind to people, the isolation is less. The trust is more. Like Kristen said, the rapport. We build rapport because we've been putting deposits into the emotional bank account of each person that we walk across. Like it could be the cleaning lady at our building, and it might be a VP in our building. What does it matter? We'll be kind to everyone. So there have been so many wonderful conversation points here. So, you know, if anyone who's hearing this at any point in time has a story to share, whether you've gone through your own journey or you're a practitioner and you have more nuggets to share, just let me know. Email me at my GTACC email, and happy to have a dialogue. But you guys have really served really served the community well. I love these intelligent conversations. So just before we wrap up, we do have a couple of upcoming events. So for GTACC, so it's a webinar on January 25th, hosted by Calabrio, and they're going to be sharing about how to have your workforce be flexible, your workforce management, flexible for the employees, but also serve the business needs. So that's going to be a webinar. You can get all the register and everything on the GTACC site. And on February 1st, Zoom's going to share how they use AI in their customer service because their volume has gone up a lot. And so someone who's in charge of digital will share his own journey of how they used AI for their contact center. So excellent. And then February 22nd, I believe, and you can see it on the website, we're going to have an in-person session for operations leaders, non-vendor event, downtown Toronto, sponsored by Activio. And it'll be in downtown Toronto office. And again, you can register on the site. And then March 6th is our Women in Leadership event at Tyndale University. We have the last 2 tickets left, in-person tickets. And then there's around 30 something virtual tickets left. So lots in store. Save October 24th. That's our live big conference in Brampton that we have every year. And the mental health conversation will continue. So we'll have it every couple of months. And maybe I'll be tapping on you ladies to maybe lead some conversations as well. But thank you so much. It takes a community, it takes a village to make things happen. So it's my privilege to just kind of, be a passenger here and listen to this amazing conversation. So I appreciate each of you. Thank you so much. And thank you to all who are attending and watching this after the fact. But each of you have made significant value and contribution. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Sangeeta.
you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. It's been great to get to know everyone. And I know I speak for myself and probably Kristen and Pascal too, that we're more than happy to reach out and participate in other conversations, because we all find this very, very important.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.